Good morning, BFM fam. Oh, good morning, everybody. I'm gonna sit here with you for just a minute while we, before I hit the intro, waiting on the coffee pot to finish upstairs so Cameron can get him a cup of get shit done. So,
push buttons.
yes, Lord. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Steve says, good morning, everybody. Tommy, when I says morning, I expect you to say morning back.
It's amazing how that was so offensive and nobody was offended by it.
Man, all right. We live in Georgia. Part of the basic public school curriculum in Georgia is Georgia studies. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was a little kid doing Georgia studies, buddy, I had memorized all of it. I could tell you the state bird, the state instrument, the state flower, etc. Like all these just useless trivia. And there is a state weed, right? The state has an official version of everything.
Right.
And part of that education program included, and I think back on this fondly, a field trip to, I don't remember the name of the place, but it was basically the Uncle Remus plantation. It was not quite a theme park, more like a museum, but dedicated to the Uncle Remus stories. And they had rock candy, and it was awesome. And that was a thing when I was a kid. Maybe I need to figure out what the name of that place was and take my kids there if it hasn't been burned down by BLM yet. So it's Firearms Friday. What are we doing?
Well, there's actually a couple of things that I would want to touch on that are actually related to Firearms Friday.
Do I need to pull something up?
No.
Okay.
So first one. Oh God. Okay, maybe you should because I just blanked on his name. No. Look, don't. It's fine. The original rooftop Korean from the L.A. riots. Yes, he passed.
I will pull him up.
And
we remember him fondly because you want to talk about standing for Americana.
Well, yeah, I mean,
It's like, no, this is my business. Lee Sang-un.
Thank you.
Or I hate anglicized. Lee Ji-soo.
No, I don't think
that's
it.
not the one.
Yeah,
that's
see,
not
this
the
is
one.
this is why I said don't
Okay.
look it up, because we'd be doing all this. But yeah, so LA riots during the Rodney King incident. Oh, okay, all right, fair enough.
And that says Kaju Matek,
Okay,
which is the store name.
There's this bizarre thing where Asian people and black people don't get along, and it's not a thing that I was not aware of until I was, like 18, 19, 20 years old, somewhere in that ballpark. So if you're an Asian shop owner and black people riot, you're screwed. So these guys hung out on rooftops, ironically, often with AR-15s, and took pot shots at people who tried to burn their businesses down. And there were not a lot of Korean businesses that were burned down. Hence the rooftop Korean and the meme that came with it. And so it's a bit of meme sadness. And it's also 2A related.
I think you mispronounced iconic.
No.
You said ironic. I'm making a joke.
Right.
And yeah, as far as like, okay, so racism, one of the things that I've often said as somebody who has done a lot of world traveling, buddy, when you hear people talk about racism in the United States, you are usually hearing it from people who are, obviously you have your virtue signaling celebrities who should know better because they've done some traveling, but Americans, by a wide majority, do not travel outside of the United States. And hey, fair play. The United States of America is a gigantic country. You can do a lot of traveling without ever needing a passport in America. But buddy, if you have never been to Europe, if you've never gone to the Middle East or Asia, if you've never been to Africa, if you've never been outside of the U.S., you have no idea what racism looks like. When I was at DLI, and this is still in America, right, but dealing with native-born, first-generation, native-speaking Koreans in classes studying the language, there was a Korean restaurant. Mm-hmm. And the Koreans, the off-the-boat Koreans, would tell us, oh, their food nasty. They use second-day rice. They take the rice up and use it again the next day. This restaurant
how you make
nasty.
Good fried rice.
Turns out what was really going on is the woman that owned the place was married to a soldier who was black. And so all the Korean teachers would tell us, no, you need to go to this other Korean restaurant because they didn't want you to go and give business to the Korean woman who was married to the black man. That's the kind of shit that racism looks like outside of the U.S. I know that happened here, but it happened here because it was transplanted from Korea. They're similar amongst different brands of Asian in the area too. Koreans and Japanese do not get along. The Japanese don't get along with anybody, and so forth. That's just a little aside about that. But to have lost the legendary rooftop Koreans is. I mean, we didn't lose him in a tragic incident. He had a life, but it is sad that we've lost an American hero.
Well, he's a legend, and this really goes back to a thing we discussed with Kyle Rittenhouse, because remember the narrative was, well, Kyle Rittenhouse he didn't commit murder, but it was really unwise for him to be there. And it actually reached a point where I said, no, I fundamentally reject that narrative.
Agreed.
If you're going to let people burn your house down and burn your neighbors' houses down, at some point you have to say, no, stop it. Stop burning our fucking town down. And if I have to meet you armed in order to stop you from burning the fucking house down, then that's what has to happen. And so these rooftop Koreans were like, Oh no, like I did everything I could to come to this country, and then I worked a shitty job for 5 years so that I could save up the money to buy this gas station, and then I work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week at this gas station. Fuck you, you're not burning it down. Like,
SWAT! Yeah. And you mentioned Rittenhouse, so 100%. The gun grabbing lefties, part of their argument is no, the job of the police is to be the armed man that comes to your defense with a firearm, that saves you, that when a firearm is needed to save you from imminent danger, that is the job of the police. Couple things there. A, Dehaney versus Winnebago and Dehaney versus Washington and Gonzalez versus Winnebago. Anyway, are two of the several Supreme Court decisions that say the police have no duty to protect. It is not the job of the police. The police are not there to protect and serve. If you see protect and serve on the side of a police car, you're looking at fraud being committed against you, because the law is very clear. The police have no duty to intervene and stop crime from causing you harm. That said, when you look at the situation that Rittenhouse found himself in, the left that says you're supposed to wait for the police left somebody like Kyle Rittenhouse in a situation where the police were actively not only refusing to enforce the law and stop the BLM terrorists from burning down whole cities, but they were going out of their way to protect these terrorists and prevent people from intervening on their own behalf against the harms being caused by these organizations. In that case, a person like Kyle Rittenhouse does not have the luxury of relying on the police to protect him from armed, firebomb-throwing, ravenous terrorists. And Alex points out, 100%. That just got upheld again in Broward County. The Broward coward, the resource officer, whose name I forget now, but who basically sat back and let it happen.
Forgotten. Yes.
It should. Well, no, it shouldn't, because everybody who hears his name on a job application needs to say, fuck you, starve, coward. I don't want you anywhere near my business. I don't care what that business is. But the Broward coward, he's been acquitted, I guess. Anyway, he's not being held responsible because the police do not have a duty to protect or defend you. If you are not armed and prepared to defend yourself against the ravages of an insane and dangerous assailant, then tough shit, because the police are not there for you. Now, you do get a good guy every now and then that becomes a cop. And I want you to notice that I very carefully said a good guy who becomes a cop. I did not say a good cop. You get a good guy who's got the best intentions, who hasn't been paying attention to what has happened to law enforcement in this country, who chooses to become a police officer. And you've got a chance that he'll do the right thing. But another thing to understand is that because the law does not require him to do it, and the policy of the department is designed to protect officers from facing consequences for their bad actions, he is taking a substantial personal risk if he does intervene. He's at risk of losing his job for violating policy if he does attempt to protect you from the ravening hordes. And that's got to be part of your math.
Anyhow, rooftop Koreans. We've already spent too much time on. Let's just.
I don't think you can spend too much time on rooftop Koreans. You want to do this first one?
Well, we haven't talked about them a whole bunch, but it's.
I recognize this headline, but go for it.
White Florida woman charged with manslaughter in shooting of black neighbor. A white woman accused of firing through her... That was weird. A white woman accused of firing through her door and fatally shooting a black mother in front of her 9-year-old son in Central Florida was charged Monday with manslaughter and assault. Susan LaRench, thanks, was arrested earlier this month following the fatal shooting of Owens in Ocala, Florida. She was formally charged with 1 count of manslaughter with a firearm and 1 count of assault. State Attorney William Gladson said his office contemplated filing a second-degree murder charge, but that prosecutors concluded there was insufficient evidence that LaRench had hatred, spite, ill will, or evil intent. Why do we have a picture of Merrick Garland here? Robert Bowers killed 11 people.
This is the face of the DOJ.
Robert Bowers killed 11 people at a Pittsburgh... Two former... Bro, what is going on here?
I think that's the end of the story.
That's the... Okay, well, all right, so... Oh, there... Wait.
Okay.
As deplorable as the defendant's actions were in this case, there is insufficient evidence to... Wow, that's not going to taint a jury pool. As deplorable as the defendant's actions were in this case, there is insufficient evidence to prove this specific and required element of second-degree murder, Gladson said in a statement. I am aware of the desire of the family and some community members that the defendant be charged with second-degree murder. My obligation as state attorney is to follow the law in each case that I prosecute. If convicted, LaRench faces up to 30 years in prison. Amanda Sizemore, LaRench's attorney from the public defender's office, said she had no comment at this time because she's the defendant in a fucking crime. Anthony Thomas, an attorney for the Owens family, said the decision against filing a second-degree murder charge was disappointing. We firmly believe that justice demands nothing less. Thomas said in a statement, the failure of the prosecutor to charge Susan with what truly reflected her wanton, reckless behavior undermines our ability to get real accountability. Up to 30 years in prison for a racially motivated killing is not accountability? Okay. Owens was killed June 2nd in Ocala, about 83 miles away north of Orlando. After the shooting, LaRench told investigators she had problems for 2 years with being disrespected by children in the neighborhood, including Owens' children who were ages 12, 9, 7, and 3. Starting to paint a picture here. It's dark humor, but it's starting to paint a picture, Chris. According to an arrest report from the Marion County Sheriff's Office, LaRench said that she had a headache the day of the shooting and that the children were running and yelling outside her apartment. They're an apartment complex. That's another... That night, while a few children were playing basketball... Oh, God. Y'all, I know this is terrible, but whoo, if you're willing to...
LaRench threw a pair of roller skates.
I got it. Hitting one of them in the feet... Owens then came over and knocked on the door. LaRench told investigators that Owens threatened to kill her and banged on the door so hard she feared Owens would break it down. Owens fired a single round from her .380 caliber handgun, the sheriff's office, which went through the door, fatally struck Owens. A judge has granted LaRench $154,000 bond while ordering her to wear an ankle monitor and to stay away from the Owens family. Okay, so I'm just gonna say it, and if this offends every single fucking person that watches this this broadcast, but it seems like a Karen and a Shaniqua got into a verbal altercation that escalated. Now, there's the legal area, and of course there's the moral area, and there's probably a layer of common sense that you could put on top. Don't throw shit at kids.
Right.
Especially roller skates. But don't throw shit at kids. However, Bro, if they're playing basketball at night and all they were doing was playing basketball, are they making enough noise to piss off the neighbors? No. No, they're not. They're just not. And then go and knock on somebody's door. When you go and bang on somebody's door, like if it's 10 a.m. and I knock on your door, even if I knock pretty aggressively and I'm like, damn it, Chris, where are you? Well, it's one thing. If it's 10 p.m. and I knock on your door pretty aggressively and I say, damn it, Chris, where are you? And then if I'm knocking on your door going, you piece of shit, I will kill you, and all that. And then finally, the last thing is, when you're going to do stuff like fire through objects, that's its own separate thing with gun safety where you can't check your... Oh, Alex even beat me to it.
Yeah.
It says, don't shoot indiscriminately through your door. On the one hand, everything about this is tough.
Well, I want to point something out. Generally, I agree with Alex. Don't shoot indiscriminately through your door, and indiscriminately is the key word there.
This was discriminate.
From what we have in this case, I want to point this out. We are 1, 2, 3, not even paragraphs, sentences from the end of a relatively long article, which begins with white woman charged with manslaughter and shooting of black neighbor.
Yeah, the fact that
and
this
then we
comes
get this
from the
whole
AP.
long story. Mm-hmm. We get this whole long story about white and black, and there's kids involved, et cetera, with it, and the details of the court case, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we get all that, and then finally,
the thing that actually happened.
We get the actual story of what happened, and this is all there is to it. Owens, the decedent, came over and knocked on her door. Well, the second sentence here almost puts the lie to that, because it says here that Lawrence told investigators that Owens threatened to kill her and banged on the door so hard she feared Owens would break it down. Now,
no, of course that's what Lawrence says.
Assume if you go back and assume for a moment that she opened the door, and then in this situation, right? I'm going to take that element out of it for the sake of argument for a moment. Let's assume for a moment that she didn't fire through the door. You have her testimony includes she was threatened with death, and then you got the banged on the door so hard she feared Owens would break it down. There's actually quite a lot in this sentence here, barring the indiscriminate through the door shot, which is ill-advised 90% of the time.
Well, this is Florida. Florida's a stand your ground state. If there's an element of, this is castle doctrine. This is stand your ground. If you're in fear of your life, or you're in fear of the life, to put it really simple, most stand your ground states are if you're in fear of your life or great bodily harm, or the life of another or great bodily harm of another, then you can use up to lethal force in defense of that. And I think this is one of those situations where maybe everybody was wrong, if I'm being real honest. But at the same time, I can't help but be I can't help but be suspicious, because, as you said, it's written by the AP, and there's all this stuff with black and white, and it's sad, and it's all these things.
And there were kids nearby, and it's but hold on a minute, right? You want to tell me all that and not tell me what happened until down here at the part of the article that most people don't read. Alex points out it's not just ill-advised, it's the key to this charge. Yes, 100%. I think if it weren't for her shooting through the door, they would not even reasonably be able to charge her to begin with. And I suspect that given this piece right here, unless the threat to kill her and the banging on the door so hard, this Owens, Lawrence feared Owens would break the door down, there's actually a pretty solid chance that she might enjoy an acquittal here. But And I will bolster that with the evidence of the article itself, because there's such an obvious effort here to paint this woman as evil by dint of being white. And I agree. Shooting through the door was a bad move.
Damn, Steve. Throwing fastballs. Yeah, she doesn't get the freedom to shoot through houses that the FBI and the ATF get.
Right.
That's... Boy, he's not wrong.
But Alex, you're absolutely correct. It's not just ill-advised. It is the key to this charge. There's
a lot going on with this story. It's very dense. It could go either way, and it's entirely possible that my analysis of the situation could be wrong, but I doubt it, because when an organization like the AP goes out of its way to color a story, just get the double pun there, a certain way.
No, could you explain it?
Well, you see... Well, you see, when major media outlets make race part of the issue, it's actually because they're the racist. And no, however, that was good. However, I'm not inclined to think that. I'm going to say this correctly because you just discombobulated me. Okay. Okay, fine. Because the AP has tried so hard to push a racial narrative as part of this story, I can't help but be suspicious of what actually happened. And as you go through the story and you're literally just a few paragraphs away from the end before they tell you what happened, which was they had an altercation about some kids at a basketball court, and then one went and banged on the other's door at an apartment complex. You know, that you'd think that'd be the kind of thing you would start with. That's definitely where they're going to start with the jury, right? In fact, the district attorneys, well, no, the district attorney might actually include some kind of racial element, even though it shouldn't really matter. But, you know, it is. Lawyers are funny, man. One could argue that they're really good at knowing exactly what they can get away with professionally.
Right.
You want to try and squeeze in one more? Get? Say what?
How much justice can a poor man get?
As much as he can afford.
As much as he can afford.
So anyhow, let's you want to try and...
I mean, we got a story about a rooftop situation, and we just talked about the rooftop Korean. So, in honor of Mr. Park, we gotta go ahead with this one. A Lincoln Park resident shot and critically injured a burglar who tried to break into their home from the roof on Thursday night. Chicago police said it's at least the second time this week that would-be crime victims have shot suspected offenders on the north side. That's good news. Police were initially called to the 2200 blocks of North Clybourn and Jansen to handle reports of a suspicious person on rooftops around 10:28, but no CPD units were assigned for nearly 20 minutes, even though one homeowner called 911 3 times to report the situation,
seconds
according
count.
to dispatch records.
The cops are only minutes away.
Yeah, 20 of them. What was the school shooting in Texas? It took the cops, 3 hours to get into the room?
I don't know that it was 3 hours. Are you talking about Uvalde?
Yeah.
Whereas those Nashville shooters, like from the moment they hit the scene to the moment the tranny shooter was dead, was like 3.5 minutes tops.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Around 11 o'clock, just a couple of minutes after the call was finally assigned, 911 callers reported shots fired at a person shot on the block. Cops arrived to find a woman shot on the roof of a home in the 2200 block of North Clybourn. According to a CPD media statement, a man who lives in the house, a concealed carry license holder, shot her to keep her from entering his residence, police said. And that right there, these words, concealed carry license holder. I've been hard on licenses generally for a long time. The idea of the state confiscating your rights and selling them back to you. In the case of the state confiscating your Second Amendment rights and then selling them back to you, they're not just taking your rights away. They are actively putting you in personal danger, and they're using the threat of physical bodily harm to enforce, causing you to live in a state of heightened danger. The woman received gunshot wounds to her chest and wrists. She's an Advocate, Illinois Masonic Medical Center. She's at Advocate, Illinois Masonic Medical Center in good condition, according to police. Officers at the scene said it appeared she entered the property through a nearby construction site and used a rope to get onto the roof. The burglar is the 7th person shot in Lincoln Park this year. 5 of those victims were shot during a single incident near the Lincoln Park Zoo last month.
Huh. Whoa. Did you see that little trick they did there? The burglar is the 7th person shot. 5 of those victims were shot during a single incident. Wait a minute. The burglar is not the victim. The homeowner is the victim.
Yeah, they're conflating this. They're conflating this burglar, who was probably quite justly shot.
Bro, if you're on somebody's roof,
committing a crime, and they're conflating that with this story here, a mass shooting at Lincoln Park Zoo. These stories are not the same. The neighbor had 4 shooting victims in total in 2022. The neighborhood had 4 shooting victims in total in 2022. There were 4 shooting victims at this point in 2021, 3 as of July 4th, 2020, and 6 at this point in 2019.
That has what to do with the price of tea in China?
I mean, what the fuck? We've had 3 in Honey Creek in the last month. The 2019 victims were shot in just 2 incidents, a double shooting in the 100 block. What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
But the concealed...
I'm done with you. I'm done with you, CWB in Chicago. Criminals are not victims.
Yeah, I mean, like in our internal chat, we have debate about how effective libertarian philosophy is, and the older I get, the more I lean toward it. However, one thing I think the libertarians really seem to understand is the non-aggression principle.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with the non-aggression principle, generally.
Well, I'm saying as soon as you commit a crime, you're the one in automatic violation of the NAP. Like, If you walk up to me and you're wearing a mask and I can't even see your weapon, you've just got your hands in your pockets, and you say, give me your money. The threat is I will hurt you or kill you and still take your money. Right. So you're in violation of the NAP. So there's no way that criminals are victims.
And Jeff says just not pacifism. Correct. Pacifism is the opposite of all moral good.
And let me be clear about something else as far as criminal victims. Just because the law says you're a criminal doesn't mean that I think that you are a criminal. I have said this before. Jeffrey Epstein didn't deserve to get murdered in his cell. He deserved to go to trial and get convicted and then maybe die later. But if the biggest piece of shit among you doesn't have civil rights, none of you have civil rights, because all we have to do is change the definition of who a piece of shit is, and now suddenly you no longer have civil rights. That's just the way it works, kids.
Well, I mean, yeah. It's not different than saying it's a clump of cells. What you're doing is you are changing definitions so that you can make murder of a certain person, not murder by dint of semantic argument.
So, and I've said this before, if you've got like gang member A and gang member B, and gang member A is trying to buy drugs from gang member B, and gang member B says, no, I'm keeping the drugs and taking your money at gunpoint, then I think gang member A is actually a victim. There's nothing violent going on there. So let me amend. If you're a violent criminal with violent intent, now you're an automatic violation of the NAP. But what? You're committing wire fraud? You're a piece of shit. You deserve to go to jail. But do you deserve to get shot over that? No. So, anyhow, But
yeah, I'm done with this story because of the conflation of victim groups and. Yeah,
well,
don't break into houses.
Well, it's Chicago, and there's the soft bigotry of low expectations on full display.
I tell people, right? I shoot real estate photography. I tell people, I get there, I knock on their door, right? I introduce myself, and I shoot the interiors first. I do this for 2 reasons. It gives me a chance to tell the homeowners to move their cars out of the driveway and get the trash can hidden so that I get a better picture of the front of their house. Mm-hmm. And it keeps me from getting shot at because there's some creepy dude in the yard with a camera.
Yeah.
Right? I introduce myself. We have a conversation. Hey, I'm the photographer that your real estate agent hired. I'm not just some creepy dude in a pretty shirt with a camera. Hold your fire. Right.
Pit Danny says A and B are in the commission of a crime. Yeah, and I don't think they should be. I don't think a voluntary, nonviolent business transaction, even if it's selling and buying vice, should be a crime.
Well,
and if they're and again, the voluntary part. Hey, if I'm going to sell you a pound of weed, well, I'm going to buy a pound of weed. Yeah, they're committing a crime, but who are they hurting?
Right. That they are in the process of committing a crime is relevant within the context of the law, but Cameron's talking about the question of right and wrong within the context of that particular situation.
And about self-defense,
Right. And if A and B are the 2 people committing the crime, and one of them turns on the other one, it's not that they weren't committing a crime. And for the sake of this argument, whether or not that should be criminalized or the Constitution is even tolerant or should be tolerant of the criminalization of that particular activity is irrelevant to the question of whether or not A or B, assuming one suddenly is an aggressor against the other, has the right to defend himself. That you are committing a crime does not mean that you no longer have the right to defend your own life against the ravages of the other criminal attempting to murder you. Now, in all fairness to the argument in the conversation, the facts as they stand are the law does nullify your right to self-defense if you are engaged in the commission of a crime. And I'm not talking about, what Cameron's talking about is not, I went to rob a liquor store and the liquor store owner drew his weapon. And so now I get to argue that, well, he pointed a gun at me, so I shot him in self-defense. No, that is not the same thing as 2 drug dealers suddenly coming to blows because one of them decided, hey, I can keep the drugs and the money. The other one said, whoa, I don't want to die here. Right?
Yeah, the armed robbery is the problem. That's the... Anyhow, we're like 10 minutes past. It's Friday.
It's Friday. We're going into the weekend. Safety brief, open the door. Verify your target. And it's probably good to have video.
Oh, God, sure. I fucking hate those Ring doorbell cameras. I've never had anybody in $1 million house pop on that thing and go, hold on, I'll be right there. But I have had people in 1,200 square foot Cracker Jacks say, hold on, I'll be right there. Motherfucker, you could have just walked to the door.
I can see you through this door on the back porch. Just wave. Just wave. Y'all be safe out there. Oh, Trish,
just tell her after.
No, I need more jalapeno salt.
Oh, yes,
Stat.
Please. I looked for some of that last night, and there was none. And
there is some, but there's like this much. There's maybe a cheeseburger's worth left. So, begging.
Yeah, that jalapeno salt, chef's kiss.
I will cash app you. Just let me know. Love you guys. Y'all be safe. We'll see you on Monday.